2021 will be the year of the ransom of illustrations. The last 5 years has been characterized by the explosion of the use of illustrated elements, starting with icons and pictograms, arriving at the now consumed trends of flat design, to now arrive at customized illustrations. Companies will push more and more to have their own set of illustrations of which they own the rights, created ad hoc, and this will favor the differentiation of corporate identities, moving away, finally, from the stereotyping we have witnessed in recent years. The iconographic repertoire to which we have been accustomed, certainly favored by icon platforms such as the Noun Project and the like, has led company graphics to flatten out on flat design style illustrations. The icons available on these platforms are downloadable and ready to use, free, suitable to be used almost everywhere, from the tech world to the local butcher. Today, finally, we return to an illustration created ad hoc for companies, with great joy for the illustrator's portfolio, through which to show the uniqueness of the values of one's brand. Without doubt a choice that implies an investment for companies, but we believe it is fully deserved.
The recent development of 3D modeling and animation software has opened the door to experimentation in the field of abstract animations that loop endlessly. It is the triumph of technical virtuosity. In this type of work there is almost never content, they are intentionally meaningless animations to enhance the aesthetic and technical perfection of the project. It must be said that it is not difficult to be fascinated by these glittering geometries and materials that move, fit together perfectly, and dance endlessly on the screen. In the wake of the exaltation of movement and dynamism, even the logos have been infected by the phenomenon of animations. It is well known that our eyes are inevitably attracted to everything that moves, however never before has this trick been used to give new life to the logo design sector. For at least a year this trend has started to flourish and we are sure that it will not be just a trend of the moment. The versatility of these short animations, which allows them to be widely used on all digital media, together with the ability to strategically capture the user's attention, will be the keys to the success of this trend in 2021. Let's now enter the field of colors to understand what we will encounter. It is easy to see how recently the visual universe has become more and more colorful, becoming more vivid and lively year after year. The soft pastel shades that have dominated the design for a long time have now given way to decidedly more striking colors, and this is implicitly due to the usual rush to the attention of the potential user of a visual artifact. A separate chapter must be dedicated to gradients, which have now reached such a maturity and complexity as to make them real graphic assets on which entire project systems often rest, especially in web design and interface design. The two-color gradients are no longer used. Now 2.0 or multicolor gradients are used, which in my opinion are the refined and design evolution of those typically word art shades of the early 2000s. True, almost 20 years have passed. Everything changes, but in the end the trends are nothing more than style cycles that periodically come and go. A trend already underway, which will continue in 2021, as well as that of a graphic style strongly contaminated by futuristic and science fiction influences, which recall an imaginary of the 80s sci-fi films. We are witnessing the use of fluorescent colors and selective color channels, together with an abundant use of glitch effects, which ensure a great impact but which are perhaps of dubious digestibility for a common user. I'll throw it there, is this new trend partly to blame for the success of Black Mirror? Maybe. Considerations should be made that undermine the sociology of the media and the effects of the consumption of TV series on the creativity of designers. But this is not the place, so I leave you further reflections. It may be the fascination of geometry and technical drawing, but the trend of isometric design does not seem to want to stop. On the contrary, on the basis of geometrical trends that derive value from the visual strength of diagonal lines, it will not be uncommon in 2021 to come across graphic projects built on isometric layouts. This year will also mark the centenary of the birth of the Bauhaus, and we are sure the revival of the oblique and rationalist compositions of the Gropius school will help to increase the geometric trend of isometries. Many graphics have gone through outline trends, from icons to interface buttons. As the trend is waning in other fields, now it's up to the typefaces to empty themselves of their fill and show themselves fragile and light, represented only by the trace that acts as an outline. We will see this trend above all combined with bold fonts and very large bodies, so that legibility remains almost unchanged despite the subtlety of the stroke that defines the letters. We expect the field of greatest application to be that of web design and digital, possibly with forays into the world of interior design thanks to the use of archographies, typographic wall furniture. This trend, typical exclusively of the segment of interfaces for the web and applications, has definitely exploded. These are short animations that are implemented when a user performs a certain action using an element of an interface, usually a button. They are real micro-interactions that provide feedback on the action performed in an evolved way. On the internet there are already many examples of very refined animations with which the UI is embellished. To be honest, these animations are not always functionally essential elements, but design is also this, design and attention to detail down to the last pixel, and in this case it seems to be really worth it. It was said at the beginning that trends are cyclical. Here, that of asymmetrical design is a trend that seems to have returned in 2019. In spite of the compositional equilibrium and the dictates of layout manuals, the fashion of unstable layouts and perceptually lacking a balance point is back. All to the advantage of the visual tensions that arise on the sheet, or on the screen. This type of layout may seem annoying at times, especially to the most precise, but it is precisely this that makes asymmetrical graphics more interesting. Because they are not trivial, inflated, and literally come out of the schemes and guides. It is not a new trend, but the trend of the moment is confirmed more than ever, continuing for at least 5 years to be in the list of the top 10 trends of graphic design. The overlapping of elements and the dynamic balances of the composition of the page are still one of the most used assets to win the user's attention by creating visual interest. After all, it is nothing more than the application of the principles of modal and amodal completions theorized by the Gestalt, put into practice to encourage partial occlusion of the elements and thus stimulate the eyes of the mind of the beholder. Very often the overlapping technique merges with a design that comes out of the grids or that makes extensive use of sub-modules of the same.